Crossing the age of 60 is like turning a page into a completely new chapter of life. The body no longer functions with the vigor and speed of youth. Instead, it becomes quieter, slower, yet far more sensitive. It no longer demands more exertion. It calls for careful observation and mindful care. And here lies the paradox. Many foods that were once celebrated as super healthy may now be working silently against you. They are not inherently bad, but because your body has changed, the very same foods that once brought energy and vitality may now accelerate the aging you wished you to delay. I didn't come to this realization from textbooks or scientific reports full of technical terms. It came from personal experience. My grandmother, whom I dearly loved, suffered from chronic joint pain that never seemed to leave her side. Nights of tossing and turning became her reality. Her energy drained away, no matter how much she ate or how carefully she followed nutritional advice. She was diligent. She ate her leafy greens, had plenty of vegetables, even took supplements. She did everything the experts recommended, and yet nothing improved. In fact, some things got worse. After her passing, I couldn't shake the questions that haunted me. Why had her health declined despite doing all the right things? That question drove me into 2 years of research, studying aging, digestion, and nutrition. What I discovered was unsettling. We have profoundly misunderstood how senior health works. In youth, our digestive system is strong. Stomach acid is abundant, the gut microbiome is rich, and the liver and kidneys filter waste efficiently. But with age, those inner fires weaken. Stomach acid decreases, gut flora shifts, and detoxification organs slow down. Foods that were once easily digested now linger in the body, fermenting, causing inflammation and fatigue. Nourishment in youth can quietly become burden in old age. Think about it. You enjoy a familiar meal one day, only to wake up the next morning with stiff knees, sore fingers, or a heaviness that's hard to explain. We often dismiss these signs as just aging, but sometimes they are your body whispering that what once worked for you no longer does. That's why I want to bring your attention to certain vegetables, foods you've always been told are healthy, but which may quietly harm seniors over 60. Not because they're toxic, but because your physiology has changed. Wisdom means knowing when to adapt. Let's begin with the first one. The tomato. Tomatoes are everywhere in the American diet. They brighten up salads, add tang to soups, and bring richness to pasta sauces. With their vibrant color and refreshing taste, they've long been regarded as champions of healthy eating. But beneath their glossy skin lies a hidden challenge for the aging body. Tomatoes belong to the nightshade family, along with bell peppers, eggplants, and potatoes. This plant family contains naturally occurring compounds called glycoalkaloids, the most famous being solanine. In younger people, the liver easily processes and clears these compounds, but as you age, your liver's detox capacity diminishes, and solanine begins to accumulate. Where does it accumulate most? In the joints. The result? A low-grade chronic inflammation. Not the dramatic flare-ups of an injury, but a slow-burning stiffness, knees that don't bend as easily, hands that don't grip as firmly, mornings that start with creaking discomfort. Many seniors notice their arthritis symptoms seem to come and go, good days and bad days. But if you look closely, you may notice that the bad days often follow meals rich in tomatoes, a hearty pasta dinner, a comforting tomato soup, or a salad layered with bright red slices. The body may be sending you a signal, one that too often goes ignored. Tomatoes carry another challenge. They are highly acidic. As we age, our ability to regulate the body's acid-alkaline balance weakens. To neutralize excess acid, the body draws minerals from its own reserves, calcium from bones, magnesium from muscles. Over time, this subtle borrowing depletes the very structure that keeps you upright and strong. Each bowl of tomato soup may feel soothing in the moment, but it may also be quietly withdrawing from your bone bank account. The body sacrifices its foundation to maintain internal balance. I remember a candid conversation with my grandmother's doctor. He admitted, "Many of my elderly patients with severe arthritis eat tomatoes regularly, but I don't tell them to stop. There's not enough research." His words struck me deeply. Must we always wait for double-blind studies to validate what the body is already telling us? Sometimes clarity doesn't come from statistics. It comes from patterns, from lived experience, from pain that repeats itself in plain sight. This is not a warning meant to scare you. It is an invitation to listen more deeply. Tomatoes are not evil. They simply may no longer serve your changing body. What once was your ally may now be a quiet adversary. The wisdom is not in rejecting them with fear, but in setting them aside with respect for your body's evolution. Because you are not fragile, you are evolving. Your body has carried you for decades. Now it asks to be nourished differently. It doesn't need you to cling to the same foods you ate at 30. It needs you to honor the reality of 60. Caution around tomatoes is not a mark of weakness, but of adaptation. This is the truth about aging. Your body is not failing you. It is transforming. And nourishment too must transform. To ignore these changes is like wearing the same clothes you wore decades ago, refusing to acknowledge that time has reshaped you. The body whispers, it doesn't shout, and the whispers say, respect the shift, evolve with me, feed me wisely. One vegetable has held a special place in the American imagination as the very symbol of health: spinach. We grew up watching Popeye squeeze open a can and instantly gain the strength to fight off any foe. Spinach has been marketed as the ultimate leafy green, packed with iron, vitamins, and vitality. Doctors, parents, nutritionists, all have praised it as a food that builds energy, enhances longevity, and keeps the body young. And in many ways, spinach does have wonderful qualities. It is rich in nutrients, light, and refreshing. But what is rarely discussed is that raw spinach, while perfectly safe for young people, can pose quiet challenges for those over 60. The difference lies not in the plant itself, but in the aging body that consumes it. Raw spinach is extremely high in natural compounds called oxalates. These are molecules that, when broken down inside the body, can form tiny, sharp crystals. In a strong, youthful system, healthy kidneys filter and expel them without difficulty. The process is smooth, barely noticeable. But with age, kidney function begins to soften. The filtration system, once highly efficient, now lets more oxalates linger. They don't just disappear, they build up in the joints, in the kidneys, even binding themselves to essential minerals you desperately need. The results of this accumulation can be felt in many ways. Those sharp oxalate crystals can lodge themselves in joints, triggering swelling, stiffness, and discomfort that looks suspiciously like arthritis. They can combine inside the kidneys to form stones, causing pain and further weakening renal health. Perhaps most concerning, they bind to minerals like calcium and iron, making those nutrients unavailable to your body. In other words, you might be eating spinach for strength, but ending up depleted, your bones less fortified, your blood less rich in iron, your muscles less nourished. The symptoms that arise from this are often brushed aside as just getting older. Achy joints, fatigue, a bit of brain fog, digestive distress that seems random. We sigh, we shrug, we blame time. But what if, instead of time, the culprit is hiding in the leaves of your daily salad? I tested this theory in a very simple way. I asked 12 seniors in my community to remove raw spinach from their diet for 6 weeks. That's it. No drastic changes, no expensive regimens. 11 of them reported feeling noticeably better. More energy, less joint pain, clearer thinking. Only one did not, and later confessed they hadn't fully followed through with the experiment. It wasn't a scientific trial with lab coats and control groups, but sometimes experience speaks louder than data. Why is this truth so difficult to accept? Partly because spinach has been so deeply ingrained in our culture as a health food. To say it might harm older adults feels almost blasphemous, but aging shifts the rules of the game. What's beneficial at 30 can be burdensome at 70. To deny this is to deny the wisdom of your own body. This doesn't mean spinach must disappear from your plate entirely. Cooking changes things. Heat reduces the oxalate content significantly, transforming spinach into a gentler food for seniors. Lightly steamed or sautéed spinach can still provide nutrients without overburdening the kidneys. The problem lies primarily in the raw form, those heaping salads, that green smoothies, and raw wraps that so many health-conscious people consume daily. For the aging body, raw spinach can quietly become an obstacle to vitality. Consider this. Oxalate buildup doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, creeping process. One salad doesn't make or break your health. But years of daily raw spinach consumption can leave a trail of fatigue, joint stiffness, and mineral depletion that you attribute to just getting older, when in fact, your food choices are accelerating what feels like inevitable decline. The lesson here is not about fear, it's about awareness. Your body is not betraying you, it's simply less capable of handling certain burdens. If you listen closely, it's telling you where those burdens come from. The aching knees, the sluggish mornings, the stubborn digestive upset. These may not be random. They may be messages from your body asking you to reconsider what you put on your plate. I think of the seniors who participated in that small experiment. One man in his 70s told me, "I always thought I was just supposed to feel stiff when I got out of bed. But after cutting out raw spinach, I noticed the stiffness wasn't as bad. I had more energy in the mornings." He hadn't realized for years that what he thought was aging was, in truth, food not suited to his stage of life. Another woman shared that her mental clarity improved. She had assumed brain fog was inevitable with age, yet a simple shift in her diet lifted the haze she had grown used to. These are not miracles. They are practical outcomes of aligning food with physiology. It's fascinating that traditional systems of medicine already knew this. In Ayurveda, the ancient Indian science of life, foods high in oxalates are considered heavy and difficult for older bodies to process. In Chinese medicine, raw greens are often classified as cold and dampening, qualities believed to extinguish the digestive fire of elders. Modern science is just beginning to catch up with what ancestral wisdom has long understood, that food must match the season of your life, not just the season of the year. So, if you're over 60, here's my invitation. Experiment for yourself. Set raw spinach aside for a few weeks. Notice how you feel. Pay attention to your joints, your energy, your digestion, your clarity of thought. No one else can tell you exactly how your body will respond. Not even the most qualified doctor. Because your body is unique. The only way to know is to observe. If you miss spinach, try it cooked. Add it to soups, saute it lightly with garlic, stir it into stews. You may find you can still enjoy its flavor and nutrition without the burden of raw oxalates. Remember, food is not simply about nutrients on a label. It is about how your body interacts with those nutrients at this exact point in your life. When we stop assuming that aging equals inevitable decline, we open the door to possibilities. What if much of what you consider normal aging is simply your body reacting to foods it can no longer process well? What if by making small, conscious adjustments, you could reclaim energy, ease, and clarity you thought were gone forever? This is not wishful thinking. It's practical wisdom. It's the kind of wisdom my grandmother never had the chance to embrace. But you do. Don't ignore the whispers of your body. Let them guide you. Because aging isn't about resignation. It's about evolution. And part of that evolution is realizing that spinach, once a symbol of strength, might now be holding you back. Not forever, not entirely, but in ways that matter. Your job is not to resist change. It is to adapt, to feed yourself with foods that honor who you are today, not who you were decades ago. If tomatoes and spinach surprised you, the next vegetable may be even harder to accept. It's bright, crisp, and colorful. Nutritionists praise it for its antioxidants. Grocery stores display it proudly in shades of red, yellow, and orange, often at the front of the produce aisle. Children munch on it raw, adults toss it into stir-fries, and seniors add it to salads believing they're choosing wisely. I'm speaking, of course, about bell peppers. At first glance, bell peppers appear innocent, even beneficial. They're low in calories, high in vitamin C, and visually appealing on the plate. But beauty and popularity do not always translate to compatibility with the aging body. Like tomatoes, bell peppers belong to the nightshade family. That means they carry the same glycoalkaloids that can stoke inflammation. What looks like a simple vegetable side dish may, for seniors, translate into swollen joints, aching hands, and creeping stiffness. But the story of bell peppers goes deeper. Each year, independent organizations such as the Environmental Working Group publish a list known as the Dirty Dozen, produce items most heavily contaminated with pesticides. Bell peppers consistently rank near the top. For a healthy 25-year-old with a fast metabolism and a robust liver, pesticide residues may pass through without obvious effect. But for someone in their 60s or 70s, the liver no longer detoxifies as efficiently. The same pesticide load that barely phases the young can quietly burden the aging, storing itself in fat tissue, including the fat-rich tissues of the brain. And these chemicals are not passive. Over time, they can disrupt hormones, fog memory, and contribute to a steady undercurrent of inflammation. This isn't scare talk, it's physiology. Many pesticides are lipophilic, meaning they dissolve in fat. Once they lodge in your body fat, they don't just vanish, they persist. For seniors, that persistence can translate into cumulative effects: cognitive decline, weakened immunity, brittle bones, even mood changes. Perhaps you believe buying organic solves the problem. And yes, choosing organic does reduce exposure to pesticides. But bell peppers present another issue rarely discussed. They are very high in lectins. Lectins are plant proteins that act like natural defense mechanisms. Younger digestive systems often handle them without much difficulty. But as you age, the intestinal lining becomes thinner, more permeable, more sensitive. Lectins can irritate this fragile barrier, triggering bloating, digestive upset, fatigue, and systemic inflammation. I witnessed this firsthand with a neighbor of mine, an 82-year-old woman who took pride in her healthy diet. Every day, she ate bell peppers, raw in salads, sautéed in her eggs, snacked on them like apple slices. And yet she constantly complained of digestive discomfort, swollen joints, and aching knees. I gently suggested she try removing bell peppers for just 3 weeks. To her surprise, the bloating diminished, her energy returned, and her steps, while still careful, felt lighter. It wasn't a miracle cure. It was simply the removal of a silent irritant. What fascinates me most is that none of this is truly new. Long before modern nutrition science, traditional healing systems understood the effects of foods on aging bodies. In traditional Chinese medicine, foods are classified not just by nutrients, but by their energetic qualities: warming, cooling, dampening, drying. Cold, raw vegetables like bell peppers are considered too cooling and dampening for older adults, extinguishing digestive fire. Ayurveda, the ancient Indian system of health, teaches something similar. As digestion weakens with age, raw or complex foods, particularly those with defensive compounds like lectins, become harder to process. Instead, elders are encouraged to eat warm, cooked, easily digestible meals that stoke the inner flame rather than douse it. These perspectives may sound primitive to some, but in reality, they reflect centuries of lived observation. Modern research is only beginning to validate what cultures have known intuitively. Not all foods are equally suitable at all stages of life. Of course, bell peppers are not poison. For many people, especially the young, they can be nourishing. But for seniors, the combination of glycoalkaloids, pesticide load, and lectins can add up to more harm than benefit. This doesn't mean you must ban them forever. It means you should approach them with awareness. Pay attention to how your body feels after eating them. Keep a simple food journal. If you notice patterns of discomfort following bell pepper meals, consider setting them aside, at least for a season. Some may argue, but I've eaten bell peppers my whole life without a problem, and that may be true when you were younger. But aging rewrites the rules. The same body that thrived on raw vegetables at 30 may struggle at 70. The stubbornness to keep eating the same way despite obvious discomfort is not a sign of strength. It is a refusal to adapt. Imagine your body as a house. At 30, the roof is solid, the walls tight, the windows strong. A little leak doesn't matter, it dries up quickly. But at 70, the roof is thinner, the windows looser, the walls less firm. The same storm that once passed unnoticed now leaves damage. Aging is not weakness, it is simply change. And food, like maintenance for a house, must evolve with the structure it serves. So, what can you do if you love bell peppers? First, cook them. Cooking reduces lectin activity and makes them somewhat easier to digest. Second, choose organic when possible to minimize pesticide exposure. Third, limit frequency. Instead of daily consumption, consider enjoying them once in a while and balance them with gentler, more supportive foods. The key is not to live in fear of vegetables, but to live in harmony with your changing body. Too often, seniors accept pain, stiffness, bloating, and fatigue as just old age. But what if it isn't? What if those discomforts are simply signals that certain foods no longer serve you? What if by removing or reducing them, you could experience lightness and vitality again? I think back to my neighbor. She told me after 3 weeks without bell peppers, I didn't realize how heavy I felt until that heaviness lifted. That statement lingers in my mind. How many of us carry burdens we mistake for aging, when in truth, they are avoidable? How many aches and foggy days could be relieved simply by listening to the body's quiet voice? To summarize, bell peppers, while colorful and appealing, may not be the friendly vegetable we've always assumed for seniors. Their nightshade compounds, pesticide residues, and lectins combine to challenge the aging body in ways younger people don't experience. Removing them isn't about restriction, it's about respect. Respect for the wisdom of your body, respect for the stage of life you're in, and respect for the possibility of aging with vitality rather than resignation. Aging is not about stubbornly holding on to foods that no longer fit. It's about courage, the courage to change, to adapt, to evolve. And that courage can begin with something as simple as setting aside a bright red pepper. Now that we've looked at 3 vegetables that may quietly undermine senior health, let us turn to those that can do the opposite. Foods that not only avoid harm, but actively support and revive the aging body. These are not miracle cures, nor exotic superfoods that cost a fortune. They are humble, accessible, time-tested plants that carry healing properties perfectly aligned with the needs of elders. The first among them is one you likely already know, though perhaps you've underestimated its power: ginger root. Technically considered a vegetable, ginger has been a staple in traditional medicine for thousands of years. From ancient Chinese remedies to Ayurvedic tonics in India, ginger has long been prized for its warming qualities, its ability to stimulate digestion, and its natural anti-inflammatory effects. What makes it extraordinary for those over 60 is that ginger doesn't just avoid stressing the body, it actively restores it. Let's begin with digestion, the cornerstone of vitality. As you age, your stomach acid declines, your intestinal movement slows, and your ability to break down and absorb nutrients becomes less efficient. Ginger provides gentle stimulation to this entire system. It warms the stomach, encourages digestive juices, and helps food move along smoothly. For seniors who often battle bloating, indigestion, or sluggish appetite, ginger can feel like a small internal spark, reigniting what time has cooled. Beyond digestion, ginger supports one of the most important but overlooked systems in the body: circulation. With age, blood no longer flows with the same vigor it once did. Extremities become cold, joints receive less nourishment, and vital organs may not get the steady supply of oxygen they need. Ginger acts like a natural pump. It dilates blood vessels, enhances circulation, and delivers warmth where it has been missing. Those who add ginger regularly often notice their hands and feet no longer feel icy, their legs feel lighter, and their overall energy subtly improves. But ginger's true gift lies in its powerful anti-inflammatory compounds, known as gingerols. Inflammation is sometimes called the silent fire of aging, a slow burn that erodes joints, stiffens muscles, clouds the mind, and weakens immunity. Medications may temporarily mask pain, but they rarely address the underlying inflammation. Ginger, however, works with the body to calm this fire naturally. Studies have shown gingerols reduce markers of chronic inflammation while also encouraging the repair of cartilage and connective tissue. In practice, this means less stiffness, easier movement, and greater comfort in daily life. The beauty of ginger is that its healing is subtle but steady. Don't expect dramatic overnight changes. Instead, think of it as rekindling a fading flame. At first, you might notice a gentle warmth in your belly, then a lightening of stiffness in your joints, then a quiet return of energy you thought was gone for good. Healing that comes from within is slower, but it is also deeper and longer lasting. Another remarkable quality of ginger is its effect on the liver. The liver is the body's detoxification hub, and as we've seen, its capacity declines with age. Ginger supports liver function, helping it process toxins more efficiently. For seniors exposed to medications, environmental chemicals, or pesticide residues in food, this added support can make a significant difference. By easing the burden on the liver, ginger allows the entire system to function with greater harmony. What makes ginger especially practical is how easy it is to incorporate into everyday life. You don't need supplements or capsules, though those exist. The most effective form is fresh ginger root. Slice it thin and steep it in hot water for a soothing tea. Grate it into soups, stir it into stews, or add it to a stir-fry for both flavor and benefit. If your body welcomes stronger doses, juice it with other vegetables or fruits. But start small, just a 1/4 inch slice per day, is often enough to awaken these effects. And unlike many modern interventions, ginger is affordable. A single root can last weeks. Compared to medications with long lists of side effects, ginger offers benefits with virtually none, apart from mild stomach upset if consumed in very large amounts. For seniors living on fixed incomes, this accessibility is a blessing. Of course, no food is a panacea. Ginger won't erase decades of wear and tear overnight. But as part of a mindful diet, it can help restore balance where imbalance has crept in. Think of it as a companion on your journey through aging, reliable, humble, and always available when you need it. I recall an elderly man I once advised to try ginger tea. At 75, he struggled with cold hands, stiff knees, and low appetite. He was skeptical, but agreed to give it a chance. Within weeks, he reported sleeping more comfortably, waking with less stiffness, and actually looking forward to meals again. "It feels like my body is working with me, not against me," he said. That is the quiet power of ginger. In traditional cultures, ginger was often described as warming the inner fire. That metaphor resonates deeply with me. Aging does not extinguish the flame of life. It simply makes it smaller, more fragile. Ginger feeds that flame. It doesn't create new energy out of nowhere. It frees your own body to circulate, digest, and heal as it was designed to do. Imagine waking in the morning, not with dread for the stiffness in your joints, but with a sense of lightness. Imagine holding a warm cup of ginger tea and feeling the heat radiate through your body, calming, soothing, and revitalizing. This is not fantasy. It is the practical outcome of aligning with what nature has always offered. So as we move forward, remember this. Aging is not about clinging to what once worked. It is about discovering what works now. Ginger is not exotic. It is not complicated. It is simply one of nature's oldest and most reliable allies. By making it part of your daily rhythm, you give your body the gift of gentle support, the kind of support that over time adds not just years to life, but life to your years. The second healing companion for seniors is one that may surprise you, especially in a culture obsessed with low-carb diets and sugar avoidance. For decades, we've been told to fear carbohydrates, warned that they cause weight gain, diabetes, and fatigue. Many older adults have dutifully cut bread, rice, and starchy foods from their meals, believing this sacrifice will protect them from illness. But here lies a misunderstanding. The truth is that not all carbohydrates are harmful, and some are absolutely essential for maintaining vitality as you age. Among them, one humble food stands out: the sweet potato. At first glance, sweet potatoes don't look like anything extraordinary. They're earthy, misshapen, their skin rough, their flesh hidden until baked or steamed. But beneath this modest appearance lies a powerhouse of nourishment uniquely suited for seniors. Sweet potatoes are rich in complex carbohydrates, the kind that digest slowly, release glucose steadily, and provide a stable source of fuel for both body and brain. Unlike processed carbs, white bread, pastries, sugary cereals, sweet potatoes don't flood your bloodstream with a rush of sugar only to leave you crashing later. They sustain you. This matters profoundly in later years because your brain, the center of memory, mood, and clarity, runs almost entirely on glucose. Your muscles, too, rely on it for strength and mobility. When seniors cut out too many carbohydrates, they often complain of fatigue, brain fog, weakness, even muscle wasting. They assume it is just aging. In reality, it's often the body running on empty, deprived of its preferred fuel. Sweet potatoes restore that balance, offering energy without chaos. Beyond steady glucose, sweet potatoes bring another gift: fiber. Fiber slows digestion, keeps blood sugar levels from spiking, and nourishes the gut microbiome. In older adults, gut health often deteriorates, leading to constipation, inflammation, even weakened immunity. By feeding beneficial bacteria, sweet potatoes help restore the inner ecosystem. A healthy gut, in turn, supports stronger immunity, clearer thinking, and steadier energy. But sweet potatoes are not only about carbs and fiber. They are packed with beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A, which supports vision, skin health, and immune function. For seniors concerned about eye health, worrying about macular degeneration or night blindness, this orange-fleshed root is a natural ally. Sweet potatoes also contain potassium, which helps regulate blood pressure, and manganese, which supports bone strength. In short, they provide a cocktail of nutrients that address precisely the vulnerabilities of aging. What makes them even more valuable is how they interact with the aging digestive system. Unlike raw greens or nightshades, sweet potatoes are naturally gentle. When cooked, their tough cell walls break down, making nutrients more available for absorption. Roasted, steamed, or baked, they become soft, warm, and soothing, the exact qualities the aging body craves. In fact, traditional cultures often served root vegetables like sweet potatoes to elders, recognizing intuitively that they were easier to digest and more sustaining than raw salads or heavily processed foods. Consider the contrast. One senior eats a raw spinach salad and feels bloated, foggy, and drained. Another eats a baked sweet potato, skin on, and feels steady energy for hours, mood lifted, digestion smooth. Both meals are vegetables, but the outcomes are worlds apart. This is the difference between forcing the body to process foods it can no longer handle versus feeding it what it genuinely needs. I recall a woman in her 70s who had adopted a strict low-carb diet. She believed it was the only way to protect her heart and blood sugar. Yet she was exhausted, irritable, and losing muscle mass. Her doctor suggested more protein, but that didn't help. When she finally reintroduced sweet potatoes, even just half of one with her evening meal, the change was remarkable. Her energy stabilized, her mood improved, and she regained stamina for her daily walks. I thought carbs were the enemy, she told me, but I realized I just needed the right kind of carbs. That distinction is crucial. Sweet potatoes are not empty calories. They are nutrient-dense fuel, specifically tailored to the needs of the aging body. They remind us that food should not only be about restriction and avoidance, but about nourishment and balance. How should you eat them? Simply, warmly, and with respect. Bake them whole with the skin on. The skin contains additional fiber and compounds that support gut health. Roast them until caramelized, steam them until tender, or mash them with a drizzle of olive oil. Unlike refined carbohydrates, which offer instant but fleeting satisfaction, sweet potatoes provide a slow, enduring form of strength. Many seniors who add them to lunch or dinner notice that their afternoon fatigue fades, their mood lifts, and their energy carries them through the evening with ease. There is also a psychological gift here. In a world that constantly tells us to restrict, cut back, and deprive ourselves, sweet potatoes feel generous. They are sweet without being harmful, filling without being heavy. Eating them can be a small act of comfort, a reminder that food can be both enjoyable and deeply supportive. This emotional nourishment matters too, because aging is not just a physical journey, but also an emotional one. Of course, moderation is key. Too much of any food can create imbalance, but within a varied, mindful diet, sweet potatoes shine. They can replace processed carbs, support healthy weight, and offer energy that feels natural, not forced. For seniors on fixed incomes, they are also affordable, widely available, and versatile. You don't need exotic powders or expensive supplements. You just need a root that grows in the earth and has sustained humans for centuries. Think of sweet potatoes as more than food. Think of them as grounding energy. Roots, after all, grow beneath the soil, absorbing minerals, storing strength, surviving seasons of scarcity. When you eat them, you are borrowing some of that resilience. You are grounding yourself, steadying yourself, rooting yourself in nourishment that carries you through the inevitable changes of age. Imagine this simple picture. Instead of collapsing into a chair mid-afternoon, drained and foggy, you sit down to a warm, roasted sweet potato. You eat slowly, savoring its sweetness. An hour later, you notice your mind is clear, your body steady, your mood calm. That small choice, choosing a food that aligns with your current needs, can transform an ordinary day into one of vitality. This is the lesson of sweet potatoes. Don't fear all carbohydrates. Fear imbalance. Fear deprivation that weakens rather than strengthens. And embrace the foods that give your body what it genuinely asks for. At 60, 70, or 80, your body still needs fuel. It still deserves to be fed well. Sweet potatoes, humble though they are, offer that fuel in its most supportive form. The third healing food I want to introduce may not look glamorous. It doesn't shine with bright colors like bell peppers, nor carry the cultural weight of spinach or tomatoes. In fact, many people wrinkle their noses at it, remembering a sharp smell or strong taste. Yet within this humble dish lies one of the most powerful allies for aging bodies: fermented cabbage. You may know it by different names: sauerkraut in Europe, kimchi in Korea, or simply pickled cabbage in many households. For centuries, cultures across the globe have preserved cabbage in salt and allowed it to ferment, not just to extend its shelf life, but because they noticed something profound. It supported health. What ancient people understood intuitively, modern science now confirms. Fermented foods restore balance to the gut, strengthen immunity, reduce inflammation, and even support mental well-being. For seniors, this is no small gift. Let's start with digestion. As we age, our gut microbiome, the vast community of bacteria inside us, changes. Diversity decreases, beneficial strains weaken, and harmful strains may multiply. This imbalance can lead to constipation, bloating, sluggish digestion, lowered immunity, and even mood disturbances. Many seniors quietly accept these issues as part of just getting older, but often the root cause is simply a gut ecosystem that needs replenishment. Fermented cabbage delivers exactly that, a living infusion of probiotics that colonize the gut, restore harmony, and make digestion smoother. When digestion improves, everything improves. Nutrients are absorbed more effectively, energy becomes steadier, inflammation subsides, even joint pain often lessens because the gut and the immune system are intimately linked. Scientists now call the gut the second brain, and for good reason. A balanced gut microbiome influences neurotransmitters, reduces anxiety, and stabilizes mood. For seniors struggling with not only physical discomfort but also emotional heaviness, this connection is life-changing. But the gifts of fermented cabbage go further. It contains a rare and crucial nutrient, vitamin K2. This vitamin doesn't often get the attention it deserves, but it plays a pivotal role in aging well. K2 directs calcium into the bones, where it strengthens and keeps it out of the arteries, where it can cause hardening and heart disease. This is why some seniors suffer osteoporosis and clogged arteries at the same time. Calcium is going to the wrong place. Fermented cabbage helps guide it to the right one. Think of it this way: every forkful of sauerkraut or kimchi is like sending a traffic cop into your body, directing calcium to strengthen bones instead of clogging arteries. Few nutrients offer benefits this specific and crucial, yet K2 is rare in the modern Western diet. Fermented cabbage is one of the most accessible ways to replenish it. Of course, the idea of fermentation can be intimidating. Some worry about the sour taste, others about whether it's safe. Let me reassure you, when made properly, fermented cabbage is not only safe but profoundly healing. The salt used in the process prevents harmful bacteria while allowing beneficial ones to flourish. That tangy flavor you taste is evidence of lactic acid, the same compound that preserves the food and supports your gut. You don't need large amounts to feel the difference. In fact, too much at once can overwhelm a sensitive digestive system. A tablespoon or two each day is enough to begin shifting your inner ecosystem. Add it as a side dish, stir it into soups just before serving, or simply eat it straight. Over time, your body will adjust, and you may find yourself craving its refreshing bite. I once knew a 78-year-old man who battled chronic constipation, fatigue, and recurring joint pain. He took laxatives, pain relievers, and even antidepressants, but nothing seemed to make a lasting difference. His daughter introduced him to homemade sauerkraut. At first, he resisted. "I'm not eating that sour stuff," he grumbled. But after 3 weeks of small daily servings, he confessed that his digestion was smoother, his joints less painful, and his mood lighter. "I don't know what's in that cabbage," he joked, "but it's doing something right." Stories like his are not isolated. They echo what countless cultures discovered long ago. Fermented foods are not luxuries, they are necessities, especially for elders. In Germany, sauerkraut was a daily staple. In Korea, kimchi accompanied nearly every meal. In Eastern Europe, pickled vegetables were a way of life. These traditions were not accidental. They were survival strategies, ensuring both food preservation and health maintenance. Modern science has only deepened our understanding of why. Probiotics from fermented cabbage enhance the immune system, helping the body resist infections. They regulate inflammation, easing the chronic conditions that plague seniors. They strengthen bones indirectly through K2, while also protecting the heart. They even improve insulin sensitivity, supporting blood sugar balance. In short, fermented cabbage addresses the very cluster of challenges that aging magnifies. Some people worry about the cost of changing diets, but here again, fermented cabbage shines. It is inexpensive to buy, and even cheaper to make at home. A head of cabbage, some salt, a jar, and a bit of patience. That's all you need. Within a week or two, you have a probiotic-rich, nutrient-dense food that can last for months. For seniors on fixed incomes, this is not just healthy, it's practical. Of course, change is never easy. Some family members may question your choices. They might wrinkle their noses at your jar of sauerkraut or dismiss it as a fad. But remember, you are not eating to please others. You are eating to honor your body, your years, your vitality. Healing often requires standing firm in your choices, even when others don't understand. If you decide to try fermented cabbage, approach it gently. Begin with small servings, notice how your body responds, and let your system adapt. Healing, like aging, is gradual. It doesn't happen overnight, but with time you will feel the shift. Perhaps digestion will smooth out, joints will ache less, energy will rise, mood will brighten. These are not miracles. They are the natural results of aligning food with physiology. Imagine this. You wake up, your belly comfortable instead of bloated, your joints looser, your mind calmer. You go about your day with a sense of lightness instead of heaviness. You share a meal with loved ones and find yourself fully present instead of fighting fatigue. This is what happens when you restore harmony to your gut, when you allow beneficial bacteria to become your allies again. Fermented cabbage teaches us an important lesson. Aging does not mean decline is inevitable. Much of what we call normal aging, the stiffness, the fatigue, the foggy mind, may simply be the result of eating in ways that no longer match our biology. By reintroducing traditional foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, we can reclaim vitality we thought was gone. So let us not dismiss this humble dish. Within its tangy bite lies one of the simplest, most profound forms of medicine available to seniors today. Affordable, accessible, and deeply effective, fermented cabbage is not just food. It is a pathway back to balance. We have now walked through 3 vegetables that may burden seniors: tomatoes, raw spinach, and bell peppers, and 3 that can bring genuine renewal: ginger, sweet potatoes, and fermented cabbage. But this journey isn't really about a list of bad and good foods. It's about something deeper. The recognition that your body at 60, 70, or 80 is not the same body you had at 30. To continue eating as if nothing has changed is to deny reality. To adapt your diet with wisdom is to embrace life as it truly is. I must be clear, the foods I've suggested you reconsider are not poison. For younger people, they may be deeply nourishing. But the truth is simple. You are not younger anymore. That isn't a failure, it's a fact. And facts, when embraced, can guide us toward freedom rather than limitation. Some may object, but my doctor never told me to stop eating tomatoes or spinach. That is true, and not because doctors don't care. It is because medical training often focuses on averages, on broad population data, rather than on the unique experience of each individual body. There may never be a double-blind clinical trial proving that raw spinach worsens arthritis in seniors. But do you really need one if your own body shows you the pattern? This is where I invite you to become your own investigator. Keep a simple food journal. For 2 or 3 weeks, write down what you eat, how your joints feel, how well you sleep, how steady your mind feels. You may begin to notice connections no lab test could reveal. Perhaps your stiffest mornings follow tomato-heavy dinners. Perhaps your energy is lower on days after raw spinach smoothies. Perhaps your mind is clearer on days you enjoy sweet potatoes or sauerkraut. These observations are not anecdotal. They are wisdom. They are your truth. Yet making these changes is not always easy. Food is not just personal, it's social. You may decline tomatoes in your salad at a family dinner and face raised eyebrows. Friends may question why you skip the spinach wrap or avoid the vegetable platter at a gathering. Some may call your choices restrictive or dismiss them as a fad. But remember, this is your body, your journey, your vitality. You are not here to justify your healing to others. Support can make the path easier. Find one friend who is also seeking health or join a senior wellness group in your community. Healing shared is healing strengthened. The encouragement of even one ally can help you resist the pressure to conform to old habits that no longer serve you. There is also the practical matter of cost. Many seniors live on fixed incomes, and food expenses are a real concern. But here's the hopeful truth. The path I've laid out is not expensive. Ginger root costs very little, and a small amount goes a long way. Sweet potatoes are among the most affordable and widely available foods in America. Fermented cabbage can be made at home with little more than a head of cabbage, salt, and patience. Over time, as your digestion and appetite regulate, you may find you eat less overall, feel more satisfied, and spend less money while nourishing yourself more deeply. I ask you to think beyond today's plate. Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Do you envision yourself moving with steadiness, enjoying energy and clarity, or do you see yourself slowing further each year, enduring more pain than necessary? Every meal is a fork in the road. Each choice nudges you closer to one path or the other. You don't need to change everything overnight. Start with one decision, perhaps replacing raw spinach with cooked greens, or adding a slice of fresh ginger to hot water. Small steps, consistently taken, transform the future. I have come to realize that the reason many elders continue eating foods that harm them is not ignorance. It is resignation. They have quietly accepted the false idea that feeling tired, achy, or foggy is simply what aging means. But what if it isn't? What if much of that discomfort is not destiny, but diet? What if by adjusting what you eat to match who you are now, you could reclaim vitality you thought was gone forever? Your body has never abandoned you, not in pain, not in fatigue. It has carried you through decades. Now it is asking to be nourished, not by habit, not by outdated guidelines, but by wisdom. It no longer thrives on the foods that suited your 30s. It thrives on the foods that honor your 70s. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about embracing maturity with clarity, lightness, and strength. Imagine playing with your grandchildren without fear of fatigue. Imagine picking up a musical instrument you had set aside years ago. Imagine traveling not with dread, but with excitement. These are not fantasies. They are natural outcomes of aligning with your body's evolving needs. And yes, there will be resistance from others, from old habits, even from your own doubts. But aging with intention means choosing not to live heavy with regret, but light with purpose. It means each meal becomes not a mindless act of habit, but a conscious step on the path of care. So I leave you with this thought. Aging is a path we all must walk, but how we walk it is our choice. Heavy or light, blind or aware. Each forkful of food is a step. Choose it with care. Choose it with clarity. Choose it with love for the body that has carried you faithfully and for the years still waiting to be filled with life.